Good morning, everyone.
Hey everyone.
Wow, that video is the perfect setup um, for what we want to share with you today. Yeah, we had a very strong inspiration over the last, I would say, maybe week and a half or so around this idea of giving, and and the idea that whatever you're extending is what you receive. All that I give is given to myself. So if we were going to play a video to set up the workshop today, I can't think of a more perfect one. Yeah, it had kind of dropped in for us through a sharing that Jason had recently, and we both were really quite inspired by two different aspects of the whole thing. Um, and David just spoke to it so beautifully. Where for me it was really this idea that love just gives. Love gives and flows almost like water. Wherever there's a need, it just fills the need. And for myself, I've been having some experiences recently where um, that that has become very present for me. Like there's just this availability um, that opens up in my mind to just literally whatever is needed in the moment, that you just fill that need. And it, for myself, it drops me into an experience of deep devotion and just a real presence and quietness. So um yeah, there's a real passion in my heart to share about that. And I know, Zach, you had kind of a different aspect of the whole all that I give is given to myself that came through for you quite strongly.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. I kind of recently, there was a bit of a shift in perception around this whole idea because I feel like I've spent a good part of the last few years kind of practicing my devotion and practicing sort of an attitude of service, mainly in the web area. Um, and so it was kind of feeling like, okay, I can pour all my love and all my care into this area, but there was a bit of a shift in perception recently where it's like it's not so much the feeling that I was pouring my love into the area as a reflection of my mind. Like the website is a reflection of the care I put in, so I'm going to see the websites as a reflection of that care. It's more like I'm I'm getting into an attitude of giving, and in so doing, the mind expands so that it's a direct experience of all this giving is for that expansion. It's not for the area. All the giving was so that my mind could be stretched in its perspective enough so that it enough so that I just open up to this feeling of giving, which I think is sort of part of what you felt so inspired about with this idea of being available. It's like it's for that direct experience of being being as available as love is so that
Mm.
we can have that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we had that in our heart to start with, um, when the idea of us doing this weekend's movie workshop came in, and we were both like, yes, yes, this has got to be it. This is the theme we want to share about. And we came across this movie which I had never seen before. We had never seen before. Neither of us had. It's fairly new. It's 2024. It's called Ordinary Angels, and I see some smiles there. Maybe some of you have seen it already. Yeah, it's funny because it's got a similar vibe to the last movie that we shared, Unsung Hero. in that it's so inspiring and heart opening. It's based on what the world will call a true story. So in that way, I was watching some interviews before with the actors, and they were sharing that, yeah, no one would believe the way that this played out if it wasn't a true story. Like the way that it continues to open to basically like greater and greater, seems like miracles in form, but just these really beautiful reflections of devotion, actually. So no one would believe that they would happen if it wasn't a true story. So that's kind of an aside, but just to share, if you haven't seen the movie yet, it's there is this woman who, and it takes place in Louisville, Kentucky. And there's this woman who is a hairdresser. She's an alcoholic. So by the world's terms, she's struggling with this addiction and pretty down and out in her life. Like there's nothing really to live for. And she has a prayer in her heart for another way and for a deeper meaning to come through. She doesn't even necessarily realize that herself, but through a series of gentle nudges by the Holy Spirit, she is activated. She is led to learn about this family who has just experienced a death in the family, and they're also dealing with sickness. So the wife of this family has died, and the little girl, there's a father and two little girls, and the grandmother are all like the family constellation, and one of the little girls has a liver disease. And so this woman, her name is Sharon, which we thought was really cool. It's like her name is Sharing, but actually her name is Sharon. And she comes across this story, and she just gets completely activated to help. And you'll see her grow in her confidence with this new relationship with the Spirit that lifts her mind, and lifts everyone around her, just basically as a reflection of this opening in her own mind. And she just takes off like a rocket with this spirit of true service, as David was just sharing. So it's just a beautiful, inspiring parable or story of the mind opening up to this, like the miracle worker's prayer, like I'm here only to be truly helpful. So that's kind of the loose plot of what we'll be getting into, and some of the themes. Of course, we've got this all that I give is given to myself, which I don't know if maybe you want to dive into that a bit. And
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, basically Jesus has a lot of lessons around giving and receiving are the same at pretty much every way you can slice it, both in the text and in the workbook. Both at kind of what I was talking a little bit about before, that this is kind of like a direct reflection at the mind level. Giving and receiving are the same, but he also kind of has lessons where he's very practical with it as well, where he's like, just try it out right now. Try to give thanks and gratitude to a brother, and you will see that you receive that thanks and gratitude in equal measure to what you give. So it can feel like kind of an abstract concept or not really that applicable, but it's very practical, and it's only, strange or shocking because it's so different maybe from the way of the world's thinking. But that, because that's kind of the main theme, I think we're going to get at that theme in a number of different ways, both kind of the practical and the more abstract, like mind level, just kind of fully exploring that, because Sharon and the father of the father of the family that Sharon is helping Ed, they're going to kind of play that out in so many ways throughout the movie. So we'll have some very concrete examples of how this whole giving and receiving thing works, or how it can work. Yeah, I mean, basically at a basic level, it kind of opens with this Sharon is an alcoholic, as Kristen already said, and underneath it there's kind of a desire for connection. And so she wants connection, but she has to learn to give the connection in order to heal her of that at one level. So she just kind of works her way into the family's life through no other reason than just her own desire to be helpful. It's just kind of a way to give. So that's some of what we'll see for this first theme. All that I give is given to myself. I don't know if you had any other thoughts about that theme.
Just that, like Zach was sharing, it's absolutely peppered in the course. Like there's 6 lessons that we found that actually speak to it directly in the title of the lesson. I give the miracles I have received. Today I learned to give as I receive. And then it's just everywhere in there. Like there's so much that Jesus talks about it, because it's kind of it's a fundamental, I wouldn't even say like understanding, because that comes through, as Zach was sharing, like this practical application of it. Like it's a nice idea, but until it's put into practice, that's really all that it is. So yeah, this movie is going to be just an outstanding demonstration of that. And Sharon is not conscious of it necessarily as she's going through, I'm doing this to receive it for myself. But I think Jesus even shares this at one point in the course, about this idea where he says, no one can doubt that, oh God, I'm going to butcher it. He basically shares that no one can doubt that giving is proof of having, like that we all know that in order to give something away, we have to first have it. So he says that, yeah, like you get that, and now it's time to put it into practice in a deeper way, like Zach was sharing, at a mind level, so that you'll use these interpersonal relationships, because miracles are interpersonal, but really it's for the expansion of the mind and to keep growing in our capacity and our desire to be in communication with the Spirit. Which kind of brings us to the next big theme. It's been really beautiful with these movies, because as we start going through them, the themes just reveal themselves. So we've got this kind of banner theme, which everything rests under, the giving and receiving idea. But then we felt very strongly to mention communication and miracle working, and we have them together because basically the function that Sharon is given, she's a talker. You'll see her, she just is a talker. But the Spirit totally puts that to use and gives her this function where she's meant to be communicating. She's meant to be in high communication, actually, and that's where these miracles show up, is basically through applying herself to the guidance, or she's learning to listen and follow, and as she does that, she becomes convinced and continues growing in her conviction that this is a way that she wants to be. Like it's the new way. It's the lift out of the ego thinking. So her ultimate motivation is to save the little girl, but there is something more to it than that. Like you can really feel that underneath, and she'll even share this through the movie. She sees herself in this little girl, and she does it as a way of I don't want to say saving herself, because that's not really the spirit of what I want to share, but it's more like she does it for herself. She realizes that this is truly for her. And you'll see when things start to take a turn into like that being applied in a personal way, that she'll start to doubt herself and doubt her, the word in my mind is calling. She'll doubt her calling to support this family. But really, you can see that it's the Spirit at work through her. So there's actually nothing personal about it. The miracles just ripple out to everyone around her. And so in that way, she's like this beautiful embodiment of a miracle worker. And you'll see time and space get rearranged many times throughout the story, which is part of what's so inspiring about it, because it is a clear demonstration of, hey, this works. Yeah, this works, and we need these miracles to be convinced.
Yeah, it's really a nice reflection of there are no order of difficulty in miracles, the one of the miracle principles in A Course in Miracles. And I do feel like, yeah, the way she just kind of dives into the communication and miracle working, like those two things aren't just two related themes. They're actually the same thing, because it does say in the Course the only use for the body is communication. So, if you're going to be a miracle worker using the body, then you better bet that there's going to be a lot of communication. Again, just for the mind to expand into more and more communication, less and less separation, feeling, isolation. And yeah, Sharon's kind of like a rocket. She just kind of she has a very deep prayer and goes for it. Um, so those are kind of two main themes. One other thing that I think comes up now and again throughout the movie that I feel is very inspiring is that it's just she's just a demonstration. Both Sharon really and Ed, the husband of the family, demonstrate that you don't need to change personally before you're ready to be used by the Holy Spirit, before you're ready to accept your miracle working function, before you're ready to communicate. Because you can kind of see in the movie, like, she has this seeming issue that's one of the more noticeable issues in the world's eyes, like alcoholism, is not like a quiet issue. It's not like she can just stuff all that down and people don't notice. So, yeah, she seems to have this issue, but that doesn't really stop her from having this change in perspective, because that's all it really is. It's just a change in perspective that is all that's needed. So we can kind of get into that a little bit more in depth, where she doesn't need to change or be better than she is or fight against her sin. Like, all of that is not really what the Holy Spirit is asking her. So that's kind of a bit of a beautiful point throughout the movie.
Yeah, and then you're going to see some other things in there we felt to just lightly mention at the beginning to plant some seeds. This idea of prayer, it's her prayer driving the whole thing, that's always answered. And even if it's not, it doesn't seem to be answered at the level of the form, it's this deep calling in her heart for this new way that's going to be pushing all of this stuff up that you're going to see, and guiding her towards the help that she needs, but she'll fight against a little bit. But really, it's the prayer that drives everything. And I feel like that's something we mentioned in the last sharing that we had too at the movie. But yeah, I think that's just like a really helpful reminder, at least for myself. And then the other thing that was very, very inspiring, you're going to see this far more towards the end of the film, but this idea of unity and how this common purpose unifies the mind. So it's like it will end up being like a flock of birds where everyone is pointed towards the same thing, and you will just, I mean, I don't really know how to put it into words because I find it so lovely. Like, just this idea of unity, you'll see everyone come together, and that's really the direction this is all headed from the beginning. Because that's the direction the Holy Spirit is taking us all in. So yeah, just wanted to highlight that. And
Yeah, I think we're maybe just about ready to start and let the movie play out, but I do think it could be helpful to kind of ground our main theme a little bit. Um, Giving and receiving are the same, or to have, give all to all, put another way. Um, I think one kind of beautiful section of the course is in the lessons of the Holy Spirit, um, which of which the first principle is to have, give all to all. So we can kind of see Sharon and Ed throughout the movie kind of grappling and learning that first lesson to bigger or lesser degrees, honestly. But this is kind of what Jesus has to say about that first lesson. To the Holy Spirit, there is no order of difficulty in miracles. This is familiar enough to you by now, but it has not yet become believable. So it's just kind of a beautiful reminder that this first lesson is actually a means to make that principle believable. No order of difficulty in miracles. Fully accept your miracle working function. Fully expand in communication. It's all because there's still exceptions being made to the rule, compromises of no order of difficulty in miracles. And to have, give all to all, that principle is how you can apply that lesson of no order of difficulty in miracles. And about the step itself, like learning that lesson to have, give all to all, Jesus says, this is a very preliminary step and the only one you must take for yourself. It is not even necessary that you complete the step yourself, but it is necessary that you turn in that direction. Having chosen to go that way, you place yourself in charge of the journey where you and only you must remain. This step may appear to exacerbate conflict rather than resolve it, because it is the beginning step in reversing your perception and turning it right side up. This conflicts with the upside down perception you have not yet abandoned, or the change in direction would not have been necessary. Some remain at this step for a long time, experiencing very acute conflict. At this point, they may try to accept the conflict rather than take the next step toward its resolution. Having taken the first step, however, they will be helped. Once they have chosen what they cannot complete alone, they are no longer alone. So that's kind of a beautiful summary of, in some sense, what we're going to see in this movie. Because, yeah, that first step is a choice, and is a choice that you need to make so that the Holy Spirit can help you. The Holy Spirit waits not on time, but you've got to be willing. You've got to consciously choose to join your mind with the Spirit. And in this case, that happens quite early in this movie. And we can kind of see the acute conflict playing out. But also, I think in this case, it's such a beautiful movie because it's the conflict really, in the grand scheme of things, isn't all that acute, actually. She's just so willing and so ready to be so fully used, and accept the help that's given her. Like, a lot of what her communication is going to be is like a switchboard operator, just like, you go here, I need you over here, like kind of orchestrating something really beautiful. And so by fully accepting the help that's given and just following, she has the experience that she's no longer alone, which is what she was wanting in the first place.
Yeah, so to kind of go along with that, we felt to read a little bit of the lesson that is the theme for the workshop. All that I give is given to myself. Just to kind of highlight that again, and like Zach was saying, kind of ground it in the course's metaphysics. So, and some of this we've kind of already mentioned, but it feels really beautiful to hear what Jesus has to say about it specifically. So, Jesus says today's idea, completely alien to the ego and the thinking of the world, is crucial to the thought reversal that this course will bring about. If you believed this statement, there would be no problem in complete forgiveness, certainty of goal, and sure direction. You would understand the means by which salvation comes to you and would not hesitate to use it now. And then Jesus goes on in the lessons. I'm going to skip a few paragraphs here. He goes on in the lessons to describe, like, basically you think forgiveness, or forgiveness in the way that the world views it, is basically this idea that somebody's done something wrong to you. And if you're a good person, you'll forgive them, but they don't really deserve it. So, you're okay if you withhold it. But basically, Jesus turns this on its head and he says, you do not understand forgiveness. As you see it, it is but a check upon overt attack without requiring correction in your mind. It cannot give you peace as you perceive it. It is not a means for your release from what you see in someone other than yourself. It has no power to restore your unity with him to your awareness. It is not what God intended to be for you. And then he goes on to say, not having given him the gift, him, Father, not having given, or the Holy Spirit, the gift he asks of you, you cannot recognize his gifts, the Holy Spirit's gifts to you. And you think he has not given them to you. Yet would he ask you for a gift unless it was for you? Could he be satisfied with empty gestures and evaluate such petty gifts as worthy of his Son? Salvation is a better gift than this, and true forgiveness, as the means by which it is attained, must heal the mind that gives, for giving is receiving. What remains as unreceived has not been given, but what has been given must have been received.
Yeah.
So I think with that, we'll pop in from time to time just to, as we do, kind of call things out, highlight some key themes, but otherwise, just enjoy this beautiful, uplifting movie.
Yeah. So even just within the first few minutes of the movie, you can kind of see that she's really looking for the connection and the meaning deep down, as we already said. And it's just kind of the deeper prayer is like looking for a new way or a purpose. And she's not really ready to admit directly that she has a problem. Like when she was asked to speak at the AA meeting, she goes, my name is Sharon. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm just a hairdresser with a super annoying friend. It's like maybe not quite ready for like 100% self-honesty, but she was open enough right at the beginning here to hear when that other AA member was saying, like, yeah, it's all just about finding a purpose that's bigger than you are, and going with that. That's when things started to change for me, is what that other AA member said. And even though she doesn't really know maybe fully why she's doing the things she's doing, she just kind of follows. She's like, you know what? My eyes are drawn to this little girl. There's like a felt connection there. This is crazy, but what if I just stop by the funeral? Like, what am I doing? This is crazy. But there's clear prompts being received, and she's kind of starting to follow a little bit.
Yeah, I think I just want to highlight the innocence that I see in all of this as well, because she has this big spark. You can see it's just misdirected into this way that she deals with discomfort within herself. It goes to alcohol and any number of ways. It can come out in any number of ways. But there's not like a huge sense of wrongness in my mind with it when I watch this, because she is open. Like there there is this desire for connection and relationships that it just comes right to the surface, and like this deep care that she has inside. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's coming out in the right way, but just to say, like, there's this love that she wants to give, and she just has it going in kind of a wonky direction at the moment, but at the first opportunities to change direction, she just does, almost with very little effort. I mean, we see her kind of putting up a little bit of a fight, and she's fighting her friend a little bit because there's that deeper hurt. It's not the alcohol. There's something underneath that she doesn't want to confront yet. She's not ready. But this process that is starting to take place in her mind, like this, oh, maybe I can help. You can like see her working it over in her mind, too, like, oh, maybe I could just go in that direction. It's really sweet. And I think maybe we can all recognize that, like, okay, well, what's the worst that can happen? I'll just try it out. And so, yeah, I just think it's really beautiful. Like, there's such an innocence with it. She's very willing to just be led in the direction of love.
Yeah, it's really beautiful as well. This is kind of the first of many concrete examples where it's like a demonstration that the Holy Spirit just needs to redirect the focus. So the solution is not going to be found at confronting the alcoholism head on, because if she tries to confront it head on, all that's going to be met with is, no, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm fine. But the Holy Spirit can work with that because she's willing, because she's willing for her mind to be redirected. The Holy Spirit just redirects her mind. Like, fine, you don't want to look fully at the alcoholism. Okay, let's get you into the direction of helping this little girl, which is going to be truly helpful. And kind of all of that, I think, speaks to a beautiful principle, which I've always resonated with the Course, which is just simply that listening and following guidance in this very direct way is the fast track. Like it can save so much time if you don't think like, oh, I need to be better, or I need to purify myself, or any of that. It's just like, I want to line up with the Spirit now, and so that He can use me, so that my mind can start to expand. And it's just reflective of her strong prayer. Like the other stuff, it kind of says in the Course, like prayers are always answered, and you can meditate or contemplate, spend lifetimes doing that stuff, and those things will work because of their purpose. But people have spent enormous effort fighting against sin, and you don't have to do that. A holy relationship is given you, and in this case, it's a very direct relationship with the Holy Spirit. Like, she's getting these prompts, and she's taking her steps and following them. So the lifetimes of contemplation and fighting against sin and preparation aren't really necessary.
Yeah, she's about to be sent on many busy doings, which are a joy to watch. So yeah.
Yeah. So let's pick it up there.
Okay. So we've met Ed. That's Ed. And that kind of gives us a little bit of a picture of his family and the situation that he finds himself in, and even some of his patterns. You're starting to get a peek at those, like, no, I don't need any help. We're holding on, things like that. And so now here in contrast is Sharon, and she's totally different now. She's completely activated, and she's in her function. Actually, she's already in her miracle working function, talking to everyone, making connections, and I feel like it's all through this big whoosh that the Holy Spirit is sending through her. So yeah, I mean, we're about to see, this is the beginning really of Sharon just continuing to take off like a rocket. It's a great analogy. So yeah, she just continues to expand and expand in her communication and relationships, and pulling everyone together for this purpose.
Yeah, it's beautiful. She's just kind of using what she has available to her right now. She she took her first steps by going to that funeral. That was kind of a little bit shocking for her in the moment, but the Holy Spirit's kind of like, okay, I have your attention, I have your yes. Let's go into something that's maybe a little bit easier for you. You're a hairstylist. Let's get you into cutting hair to help the cause. So I just think it's kind of beautiful that once you give your yes, it actually doesn't have to be some unreachable or crazy next step. It's like, no, the Holy Spirit can use anything, and she knows how to do hair. So she moves in that direction, and you can already see kind of the glimmerings of the very direct, beautiful communication and collaboration that she's going to start pulling everyone into. She just really wants that connection, and the communication function is a way for her to be connected in something that's maybe different or a different focus than what she thinks her personal problems are. Like, you can see it when she's just talking to the people on the street, like, oh, you look so good, we don't have to do anything with that. Thanks for supporting. You look great. Like, she's just kind of in it and giving already, communicating, but giving in that way. So that's kind of beautiful. And yeah, she's just starting to open up to what it means in each moment to be truly helpful. I don't know if we wanted to
we can read
that a bit.
We can read that prayer here. Just find it real quick. Yeah, I feel like we're all quite familiar with this prayer. Thanks to David, who really shared how helpful it was for him going through doorways, and really anytime he would cross a threshold that this prayer would be in his mind. And of course, Sharon, we're going to see, she just really embodies this. And there's one line that really stood out to me as we were thinking, oh yeah, let's share it during this workshop here, which I can share in a moment. But of course, that prayer is, I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. And that last line was the one that stood out to me the most as we were going through this. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal, because it's very clear, she has a call for help within her. And now this movement she's made, like this turn in the direction, as the previous course quote we read, this turn in the direction towards allowing the Holy Spirit to teach her how to heal, is what opens her mind up to how love is, and encouraging her to be like that. That's how we heal. So, and yeah, I just had one last thought too, and that's that you mentioned the word glimmers. Like, we're starting to see glimmers as well. Like, you can see Ed, he's kind of this gruff guy, he's a roofer, he's very physical, you know, that there's like a confidence for him in that. He's very good with his hands, and then he's got these two sweet little girls who just totally soften him, which is so important because there's this patterning in him, which we're going to start to see much more clearly in the next little bits of the movie. But he's got this patterning where he's, no, I can do it myself, and these little girls, they just kind of chip away at that and smooth out some of the rough edges, and you see the smiles and the softness and the tenderness come through. So that's very beautiful to see. And then also just these glimmers of how Sharon, who's a little bit boisterous and like, you know, really out there, and oh, your hair, I could put some highlights in that, you know, like she's just very, very, very outgoing, and how the spirit's going to bring the two of them together, and how it's gonna be like fireworks. It's gonna be very cool. Just the way that the complementary ego dynamics come in to soften them both, actually. So in different ways.
Yep. So we can just kind of see how the hairdressing function lifts Sharon up now. Yeah. So I feel like that's kind of a beautiful moment as well, because in just a few short moments, short days actually, it's like she's gone from, oh, there's not a problem, I don't even want to look at it, to, well, maybe I should kind of be a little bit more introspective with what's going on with this whole, like, maybe I drink too much, maybe not. But she's open to kind of look at it. And the beautiful thing is that her opening to that had nothing to do with discussing the seeming issue itself, or looking at the issue differently. It's all just pouring herself into this function of helping this little girl from a true sense of like wanting to give. And it feels like her mind is already sort of reaping the benefits of being a bit more expanded, seeing that the issues that she thought she had aren't really personal in that sense. Like, she needs to figure them out, because I feel like that's kind of what this is indicative of. Like, if there's such a personal identification, and like, oh, it's my issue and I'm so shameful and I need to figure it out, and I've caused hurt in the past and all of that. It's like, that's where the no, there's no problem, just flat out denial comes from. But when there's a transformation going on, like a healing at the mind level happening, and she can start to see like, oh wow, maybe everything that was blocking me before isn't a personal thing. Like, maybe I can be a little bit more relaxed about this. This is where the healing starts to come. And yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, just that it's so clear her willingness. You know, she's gone, like Zach was saying, from this kind of like, nope, not an alcoholic, don't know why I'm here. And now it's like, yeah, it was a wake-up call, message received. It's like, whoa, what a flip, actually, to something that, like, I think in like the world's eyes, something like an intervention for alcoholism can be quite confronting. But here she is, and the Holy Spirit, as Zach was saying, didn't go for the jugular with her. He gently led her out of this place in her mind where there's a lot of tightness and not really a readiness to look, and gently led her in this other direction, which is inspiring to her. She's completely activated. And through that, her mind just flips. Like, it's the experience that what you give is what you receive that's actually convincing. That's what she's speaking from, is this experience of like, that was fantastic. Like, this is uplifting and expansive to continue using that word, but like it's producing an experience inside of her, this giving for this cause seemingly, but it's really this convincing job that she's allowing the Holy Spirit to lead her through. So yeah, I just it's perfect pause point there, because it's just such a flip, and such a miracle, actually. She's really willing.
Yeah, and how she uses that willingness is like that's really all that's needed. In fact, I think there's a section of the course that kind of goes into that a little bit. Maybe we could take a look at that. Yeah, so this is just from the Little Willingness, chapter 18, and what Jesus has to say about that is, the holy instant does not come from your little willingness alone. It is always the result of your small willingness combined with the unlimited power of God's will. You have been wrong in thinking that it is needful to prepare yourself for Him. It is impossible to make arrogant preparations for holiness and not believe that it is up to you to establish the conditions for peace. God has established them. They do not wait upon your willingness for what they are. Your willingness is needed only to make it possible to teach you what they are. If you maintain you are unworthy of learning this, you are interfering with the lesson by believing that you must make the learner different. You did not make the learner, nor can you make him different. Would you first make a miracle yourself and then expect one to be made for you? So I think that's just a beautiful kind of context for this movie, and for her little willingness is, she doesn't have any of that arrogance. She has a really deep prayer, like, show me what it is. And it's really kind of sobering, I think, to remember, like, when we feel we're unworthy, when we feel we can't do this, or that we're not willing, we're actually being arrogant in a certain sense, because we think we know about the personality self and what it needs, and how the personality self can fix itself. But the personality self as it is isn't the problem. It's just a shift in focus. So it's almost like making the construct real if you kind of go into trying to make the personality different and trying to fix it at that level. And the Holy Spirit is wanting us to be lifted out of that way of thinking, like transcend that completely. So you can kind of see she's just kind of taking her steps, and it's kind of the first example of the listening and following guidance is the fast track. Like it's what's going to lift her out the quickest way.
And yeah, after this, we're going to see her and Ed meet for the second time, and it's going to be sort of maybe a more concrete beginning to a relationship, a more consistent relationship for them, which, more consistent relationship for them. The rest will kind of take care of itself through the movie.
Yeah, beautiful. Let's continue. Okay, so yeah, this is kind of beautiful because, the first time they really come together in a way for the collaboration, and there's fireworks, there's some healing, because right off the bat, Sharon is kind of telling Ed what he needs to hear. We've been kind of focusing a little bit on Sharon. She's got this seeming alcohol issue, but Ed's also kind of got a few rough edges as well. He's addicted, actually. as well to doing things himself, suppressing stuff, just pushing it down, not looking at it. And I mean, the world would say he's the lucky one because the way his coping mechanisms work, it's like a lot less noticeable. So he can just go on living his life and people can say he's normal. But he's got, quite a lot of, he's got the addiction as well. So in that sense, it's like they're coming together to heal, not at a personal level, but to heal the mind of its addictive thinking pattern in that sense. And so you can kind of see when they come together, there's a bit of fireworks, like Ed pushing stuff down, Sharon just going right after him, like, you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's not about you, it's about your little girl, like cutting right through that in a really beautiful way. But yeah, this is kind of what the relationship is for, to kind of take it off the personal level for both of them and start to see that it's the mind that needs healing. And this is the way to heal the mind, through a collaboration, channelizing all their efforts toward one goal, toward a common purpose that the Holy Spirit's in charge of. And then they just kind of get lifted out, some a little bit more than others according to their willingness, which I think you'll also see as we continue watching the movie. But yeah, don't know if you have any thoughts about it.
Yeah, I think just with what you were saying about like the Sharon and Ed, they both have something going on. And in the world's eyes, Sharon's definitely got the louder problem with the alcoholism, but there's not actually a difference. That was very clear to me as we were watching this. Like, it's not called an addiction. In fact, it's even sanctioned by the world in a lot of ways. Oh, he's a strong, silent type. And, like, oh, he's gruff and can handle things. But actually, there's a willingness that Sharon's bringing to open up to the Spirit's plan and prompts and guidance that Ed could really benefit from, because these, like, for Sharon, it's the drinking, that's the symptom of the deep hurt, but Ed has this deep-seated grief from the recent loss of his wife and a lot of fear around what's going to happen to my little girl. You can really see he mobilizes very, very swiftly when there seems to be a problem in that direction, which is beautiful in a way. Like, it's the Spirit really activating him to take steps that are practically helpful. But I just wanted to make that point very clearly, actually. Like, there is not a difference between Sharon and Ed in terms of who has the bigger problem. And the Spirit knows that, and that's why this collaboration becomes so wonderfully rich and healing, is because they both have something very valuable to that's coming up for healing. And one other thing that I noticed with Ed, just this time around watching it, is you can hear that his mother is like, he blows up because there's this shame around, I can't afford things, and a fear around, how are things going to continue to be paid. And his mother's there like, oh, don't lose your faith over this. And he's like, like there's a deep hurt over what's happened with his wife and probably the entire situation at large, but it's not really it's not coming through his mother like, okay, great, I won't lose my faith over this, I'm going to go back to church and like take steps towards speaking with Jesus again about things. But Jesus knows what he needs and will send in a firecracker to get him uncomfortable. Like, we need to be rocked out of that complacency so that we have an incentive for healing. Like, the discomfort is brought up only to highlight the need for healing. Jesus says that in the Course. And so, like, this is the way. And Zach even touched on that with the give all to all, where moving towards this direction, giving all to all, can seem to exacerbate the conflict, but actually this is the way. Like, it's got to be brought up. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that. And of course, I mean, you could just see how her confidence is already there. She just struts right into that house. Maybe struts is not the right word. She just strides right into that house and says, I need to see your bills. And he's like, what? But actually, it's the most helpful thing. Like, the Spirit is sending in a very clear agent, a messenger, a minister of God. So yeah, I just think that's beautiful, and this purpose will unite them, and they will start working towards a common goal despite their seeming personality differences. And the common goal is not awakening, as we would call it, but they're moving in the direction of something that does serve the whole and is going to, like, it's meant to forge connections and build relationships and open to a deeper love. So in that way, the Spirit's just totally underneath it, and Sharon is just totally riding the wave, which she'll continue to do. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think the Course really has something beautiful to say about the beginning of a true relationship, and this idea of when I am healed, I am not healed alone. So this is from Workbook Lesson 137. And as you let yourself be healed, you see all those around you, or who cross your mind, or whom you touch, or those who seem to have no contact with you, healed along with you. Perhaps you will not recognize them all, nor realize how great your offering to all the world when you let healing come to you. But you are never healed alone, and legions upon legions will receive the gift that you receive when you are healed. Those who are healed become the instruments of healing, nor does time elapse between the instant they are healed and the grace of healing it is given them to give. What is opposed to God does not exist, and who accepts it not within his mind becomes a haven where the weary can remain to rest. For here is truth bestowed, and here are all illusions brought to truth. So I think this is just kind of a beautiful reminder of what I kind of opened the session with, that it's not really giving to resolve an issue in form, either for either of them. It's all for the expansion of mind, and to open to that state where it's like there's a need and I give as one motion. Like it's that experience that Sharon's kind of already tapping into, and you'll start to see Ed soften as well as we go farther in. But it's that change in mind, that change in focus that is being discovered by both of them moment by moment now. So yeah, I think we can keep on watching.
Okay. Well, yeah, I feel like this is just the both of them are actually activated. I mean, it's really clear. Sharon's just like boom, boom, boom. She's talking to all kinds of people, and she's really putting herself out there, which is really just a way for her to continue stretching within her mind, stretching herself. But I want to point out too that Ed is also activated now. There's enough of a rest and a hope within him that he's starting to have his own inspiration. So their relationship is already bearing fruit in terms of like an opening to an easier way, and one that well, yeah, is more inspiring. And another thought I had is just with her communication style. I really enjoy watching it because I've noticed that she likes to talk, and the Spirit's putting that to use, and she is very huh. She's really putting it all out there, and she's very, very like expressive and like really almost up in your face a little bit, but she's very compelling. There's nothing pushy about it. So that's just something I've really noticed and enjoyed with her. Like as we continue to watch her in her communication function, she's like right in there with whatever is needed. She's very good at sharing, or the Spirit, I should say, through her is very good at changing people's minds, at offering an opportunity to help, so, and serve the whole. So yeah, that was something inspiring for me in this last bit.
And she just assumes that everyone wants to help. Like there's no like, oh, should I talk to this person? It's like, no, like you want to help. And yeah, as Kristen was saying, it's like she's just very practical. She just kind of speaks what's helpful, and what they can do in each moment to help, and reaches everyone that way. And then I do think, we're starting to see Ed now kind of open up and expand, both in terms of him kind of being a bit more proactive in terms of actually trying to resolve the issue. Like, oh, maybe it's not all completely hopeless, and I don't have to just push all of the debt I have away into a corner of my mind. Maybe there's actually something I can do to actually open up to what will be helpful here. Maybe I can pitch myself more roofs, and so the fact that these ideas are coming to him, I feel like is a bit of a reflection of a shift in mind from like, no, it's too painful, I don't want to look at that, I'm just kind of barely holding on, to, well, maybe it's not so hopeless after all, maybe there's something I can do. And I think that's also reflected in even just recently there, how he responded to Sharon the second time she shows up at his house. It's a little bit less of the, oh, I'm uncomfortable with this. I don't really feel this is helpful, to, oh, you think it's a bad presentation? Well, okay. Let's fix that. I can see, like, he sees the value in their collaboration super quickly, actually. And he's a little bit more open to kind of genuine feedback, whereas before it was like, no, I can handle it myself, I've got it. Now it's kind of like, oh, okay, you think the tie doesn't look good, like maybe there's something to that, like he wants to be open to those things for feedback. So yeah, I mean, I feel like the ground of all of this is just kind of them taking their steps and opening slowly but surely to more and more expansive states of communication and collaboration, and just asking for help in each moment. And yeah, I think there was something in the course that,
Yeah, there's two parts actually, and there's a chapter called Creation and Communication, I think it's called. Let me just pull it up here. Oops. The body as a means of communication, and then there's another one that we'll get into a bit later, but this just like really highlights what was shared a little earlier in the workshop, where Jesus says, remember that the Holy Spirit interprets the body only as a means of communication. Being the communication link between God and his separated sons, the Holy Spirit interprets everything you have made in the light of what he is. The ego separates through the body. The Holy Spirit reaches through it to others. You do not perceive your brothers as the Holy Spirit does, because you do not regard bodies solely as a means of joining minds and uniting them with yours and mine. This interpretation of the body will change your mind entirely about its value. Of itself, it has none. So yeah, I feel like that's just, I mean, I don't even know that there's much more needed. It's just Sharon doing her thing out there, Ed starting to open up to it too. You can really see how lifted she is. She's just very clear these days. There's also inklings of something else starting to come in, which we haven't seen yet, but she has this quite broken relationship with her son that has, that's a result of her alcoholism. So we're going to start to see that come into the story a bit more. It's just part of opportunities for miracles in Sharon's mind. Um, and then there's one more part from this communication here, but I kind of feel like I want to save it for later because it's like we're not done yet. She's just gonna continue to keep going with all of this. So I don't know if you have a feeling about that or.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
I think we can continue watching the miracles unfold.
So that's Derek. That is her son. And you can see that there's some real rockiness there between them. There's a core grievance that hasn't been addressed for either of them, really. And you can see that it still feels a little bit too, the word in my mind is like tumultuous or like explosive for there to actually be a real connecting point. And she actually really needs to hear that because I do feel like her willingness is growing, and this whole process with the spirit and opening her up, and that's going to allow her to start addressing the deeper things. So the alcoholism is not the real grievance. There are some beliefs under there that we're going to hear about soon, and yeah, underneath those is still like this desire for connection, and the way that she has been seeking it hasn't been working for her to build harmonious connections. It hasn't been giving her the results she's been looking for. But the answer here, just as with the alcoholism itself that was addressed towards the beginning of the movie, is still just this shift in focus. Like if she goes interpersonally to try to fix this with her son, like we've already seen her try to call him, he doesn't answer, and then this is the result of her going in there. But there's still like a kind of grabbing, like I'm okay, can't you see how good I'm doing? But actually there is still something underneath there that isn't going to be fixed by continuing to go in this direction of interpersonal connection. The spirit is going to shift her back into her function, into her communication function, and in that way things will just take care of themselves here, which is quite beautiful. So
yeah, it's really beautiful because I think the solution is to again shift and focus. But I think it's important to see, and what this movie does a beautiful job of, I think, of just sort of demonstrating that even though for now it is a bit of a shift in focus, like getting back into with the spirit giving in the way that the spirit would have her give, but actually her son is included in that as well, and we'll see how he's included in that. He'll get swept up in this swirl as well. So there isn't really a sacrifice there, but just the way she went about the whole thing, and trying to kind of fix the relationship personally with her son, like that she gets a reflection right back. So yeah, I think that might be it for now. I think we can just kind of see how she shifts her focus back and gets back in the miracle after that little hiccup. Okay. So, yeah, this is, I feel like, the first time where it's really like starting to get to this no order of difficulty in miracles. Like she's so clear and so persistent and so passionate, like doesn't take no for an answer, that these sorts of reflections are starting to come her way, even while she's like having more and more intense experiences with her son, and starting to pick up that bottle again. But it's really just because she's ready to start seeing and facing this kind of like core pattern of hers with the alcoholism a little bit more directly. But that'll come in time. But in the meantime, she's just going for it. And Yeah, what I find kind of real touching actually about this last segment is, you know, Ed's going on and pushing things down and insisting that he doesn't need any help, but it's actually his little outburst with the like with her on his car that allows her to take the step that's actually given and try and get that debt erased, because she was all set to oh, maybe we can sell the house. Oh, look, I found this like really good offer. Look, it's a miracle um, of of this offer where the amount you'll get is your equity in the house. Look at what's lining up here, but actually, what's given, the Holy Spirit wants so much more for him, and Sharon wouldn't have even known to try unless Ed was really clear, like, no, I I can't sell the house. Like, this is the house that I grew up in. It's the house the girls were raised in. No, this is not acceptable. And him actually sharing like what he felt directly is kind of the push that Sharon needed to get to channel her communication function in a direction where it would actually be the most helpful. Like, sometimes you just need a direct reflection of like, no, this isn't going to work, to actually be able to channel your efforts in the right direction, which is what Sharon did um, pretty pretty swiftly once it was clear what was needed.
Yeah, and what's coming to my mind is to draw our attention back to the theme, which is all that I give is given to myself, and how, I mean, this is as much for her as it is for him. It's not about $400,000 for her, but it is about just continuing to give and give and give, like with this, with no other motivation other than just this is helpful. I can feel it in my heart. It lifts me up. It's helpful for those around me, and it's ultimately, in like bringing it back to the level of the mind, it's healing for her. Like it's just an experience of joy and continuing to bring hope into her mind that there's a way through hardship, which she's experiencing in other areas of her life. So yeah, just to draw our attention back to that, all that I give is given to myself. Like Sharon is going through her own experience with all of this. So.
Yeah, and you'll see as we continue watching, there's definitely a confidence that's starting to be experienced and kind of followed through on with this entire process. It'll get kind of more and more unshakable, and there's going to be more and more that comes up with the drinking together because she's ready for it. But all throughout that, like, her rock is this kind of function of helping the family out, and she can turn back to that at any point because of the confidence that's been fostered through this process. So yeah, it's kind of like more and more lights being let in, more and more hard stuff is coming up, and we can kind of see how that starts to get resolved in this next segment here. So I think we can keep on watching that now. Yeah, it's all for her. Thank God. Okay, so here's our rock bottom moment. Took a while to get here, but we're finally here. And yeah, I feel like, while this is going on, it's in some sense just kind of an ego backlash to all the expansion and sort of communication training and in Ed's case, like opening and being more honest and not pushing things away. Like a lot has changed for both of them. And I feel like in cases where a lot happens really quickly, it's only natural, really, for the ego to freak out a little bit and go like, "Whoa, that's too fast. Let's put the brakes on a little bit." And you can kind of see it in a number of scenes leading up to this. Um, these kind of reflections of doubt and fear. Um, she got it a little bit. Sharon got it a little bit from her hairdresser friend. Like, you're not helping out. I know you're drinking. Like, what is this? It's just a little weird how much you're wanting to give. Those kinds of reflections from her hairdresser friend, and then um, obviously this relapse is another sign. Like, okay, the ego wants to kind of put the brakes on all the expansion and everything that's going on, but um, and even getting to a place where you might start questioning your own motivation. Like, she's going like, oh, all I wanted to do was save Michelle so I could save myself in a certain sense. And she's talking about it like it's a bad thing. Like, oh, I'm using her for my own selfish ends. But in one sense, that's how this whole thing works. Like, you need to give in order to really sort of take home the message, which is that you were created to give. Like, that's what you are. Um, this expansion in mind that's happening for her, she's not going to be able to see that in herself or for herself without that giving. So in that sense, that's maybe a bit of a reinterpretation. Like, no, she is saving Michelle so that she can save herself. And I don't feel like that's a very selfish thing. It's just kind of what she needs to do to see herself from a shifted perspective or from a different perspective. So in that sense, like, hitting rock bottom is exactly what was needed to for her to see her shift in perspective a little bit clearly. And I think we'll see that she still needs some time. They need to take a little bit of time away from each other for that to really land for themselves a little bit.
Yeah, this what you'll see next, where so they've been coming together, and that's where all of the healing has been happening, is through their collaboration with, seemingly together all the time, but they're both ready for something a little deeper now. Like, what we're going to see with Ed is that, and actually maybe even before going there, just really highlighting again that Ed and Sharon are both at the same place. Like, Ed has pushed her out, and that could be considered as his relapse. Like, that was kind of a thought that had come to my mind as we were watching this. Like, still they're still kind of paralleling in their healing, and this ego backlash is happening for both of them. It's not Ed comes in as the hero and kicks out the alcoholic. Like, no, there's already this idea of like, get the reporters out of the house. And there is something in there that feels very helpful, because what will come next is a deepening in a relationship with his daughters, and opening back into his relationship with God. Like, you'll see his daughters start speaking to him, his older daughter, and start speaking to him in a way that actually encourages him to open back up to symbols like church and prayer. Like, it seems like a spoken prayer with the two of them in a cemetery moment, which you'll see. But that's an important time for him, and there is this deeper relationship opportunity coming in with his daughters. And meanwhile, Sharon now has an opportunity. She's grown enough in her confidence in her relationship with the Holy Spirit to actually take a look at what's going on here with the alcoholism. And again, it's not the alcoholism, that's just a symptom of something deeper that's happening, which you just heard. She's got some beliefs going on there. She believes her son hates her. She believes that she's no good, which are actually just like they're not personal beliefs. It's just the way that it's just what's running in her mind, that through what you'll see in the next few scenes, through her opportunity to take some time seemingly apart, they're still both going deeper, and she's gonna be able to get some deeper help with all of this to find a deeper strength. Like there's nothing amiss going on here. It's just all part of the plan, like this coming together and going apart that we experience with mighty companions along the journey. So yeah, I feel like that's it.
Yeah, it's beautiful because at this point, it's like this is where she's ready to actually face the alcoholism head on. And the reason that she's ready, or one of the reasons, is because she's had enough miracles and had enough sort of movements in that direction to realize that you can't resolve the behavior without looking at the mind. So there's like, yes, she relapsed, and I think in the next few scenes you kind of see maybe a bit indirectly the recovery from that, but it's like she's not going to go into trying to fix her problem in the same way that she might have at the beginning. It's really like at the mind level, like, okay, I really want to see, like, show me what this is. And I think through that willingness to really see what's going on in the mind, she'll be kind of lifted out again. And I think there was a beautiful section of the course as well that maybe we can just read a paragraph from this section, Fear and Conflict. It's second chapter. And this is the second paragraph from that section. Simply, what you do comes from what you think. You cannot separate yourself from the truth by giving autonomy to behavior. This is controlled by me automatically as soon as you place what you think under my guidance. Whenever you are afraid, it is a sure sign that you have allowed your mind to miscreate and have not allowed me to guide it. So it's just kind of a nice reminder that you can't give autonomy to behavior. You can't say like, oh, I can't help what I'm doing. Or on the flip side, like I have to change what I'm doing so that I can heal my mind. It's neither of those things. It's the mind and the thoughts create the behavior automatically. And we can kind of see she's open in these next few scenes to seeing that, like, okay, let me look fully at what's going on in my mind, and from that point she's healed and can be lifted up again into the next Holy Spirit swirl collaboration, being in alignment again. So yeah, let's watch that play through.
I have just one last thought, actually.
In just a moment.
And that's that this opportunity that came in with the news station that seemed to have been cut off, like seemingly by Ed and the way that the script played out. But so that opportunity is not going to be lost. It feels like that was something like a legitimate prompt that Sharon felt and moved in the direction of a deeper communication. How can we get the message out? Which is really just symbolic of continuing to open into these very expansive experiences with having $400,000 of debt cleared, getting 5 planes, like very cool, actually, like in the way that the form is playing out. I think it's quite marvelous. And then now this experience with Amy Chan at the news station, that's not going to be lost. We're going to see that circle back a little bit later in the movie in a very, very important way. So I just wanted to share that as well.
Beautiful. Okay, I think we can watch that play out now. Okay. Kristen, what time is it?
It's liver time.
It's liver time, my favorite time of day. So, yeah, I feel like, this is going to be kind of the final swirl in a certain sense, and it is really going to lift everyone out of their own kind of personal perspectives and lift them out of the human condition a little bit, just for this moment where there's high communication, everyone's lit up, joining in, wants to help, and because of the kind of purity of their desire, and you just saw Ed and Sharon reconnect again, and from that collaboration and perspective, everyone's just going to be pulled in, even folks from higher places, or it's just a kind of a bigger swirl than we've seen thus far. I don't know if anyone's watched Sully, about the plane pilot and the miracle on the Thames, but this whole thing kind of reminds me of that, where it's just everyone kind of getting funneled into the same sort of purpose and same sort of perspective for this final bit of the movie.
Yeah, what you're going to see is they're going to need a lot of help, because they have a very short window to get the little girl, Michelle, to the hospital while this liver is viable. But that's really just a backdrop for all of this communicate. You're going to see high communication. And it's kind of funny because this is a time before cell phones. We're so used to, being kind of attached to our communication devices. But this is going to require a little more effort, but it's pulled off effortlessly, actually. And it's just so inspiring to watch. This is where you're going to see the theme of unity come in. And it's funny because it's all about communication and bringing the communication brings unity. So you're going to see the community completely rally around this situation. You're going to see people, Zach was saying, from very high places, seemingly in the eyes of the world, really start to pitch in and help out. So it calls in everyone to help. It's, truly inspiring.
Yeah, and so I think, just with this kind of focus on communication and collaboration, we've got a section or two from the course to read. This is from chapter 4, Creation and Communication, and this is the 8th paragraph.
Oh, can I read it?
Yes.
Okay, great. God is praised whenever any mind learns to be wholly helpful. This is impossible without being wholly harmless, because the two beliefs must coexist. The truly helpful are invulnerable, because they are not protecting their egos, and so nothing can hurt them. Their helpfulness is their praise of God, and He will return their praise of Him, because they are like Him, and they can rejoice together. God goes out to them and through them, and there is great joy throughout the kingdom. Every mind that is changed adds to this joy with its individual willingness to share in it. The truly helpful are God's miracle workers, whom I direct until we are all united in the joy of the kingdom. I will direct you to wherever you can be truly helpful, and to whoever can follow my guidance through you. I just feel like that's like the perfect encapsulation of what you're about to see here. And we were praying about it yesterday. We were like, no, we got to pause it before, because after this whole thing happens, it's not going to mean anything. It's just like, there's no way to to kind of explain it or anything. You're just going to see it all play out in the most miraculous way. It's a series of boom, 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 boom. Here's what we need. We need it now. Can you do this? And people are just like, I'm there. And there's this complete availability that that was referenced way early on, like where there's really only one direction to go in, and it's to go in it together. And the result is just great joy for everyone. Like this says, great joy throughout the mind, throughout the kingdom.
Yeah, and you can see everyone get swept up in it as we look through it. And I do think, it's kind of interesting because while all this is going on, Ed still has a little bit of healing to move through, because he's going to basically take Michelle and try to get to the airport by himself in this blizzard. And it's not going to go well. It doesn't usually go well. But, he's kind of completely shaken out of his, like, oh, there's nothing I can do. I don't want to look at that. He's like giving his whole being to it now, which is a step in the right direction. I think it's like beautiful that what we just saw, that scene that we just paused on, was kind of the maybe second time that we saw him be that direct. Like, no, Ma, it needs to be now. Like we can't wait. If we lose this liver, then Michelle dies. So he's like fully in it. And there's still a bit of like feeling like he needs to do this personally. And it's beautiful that his first thought was to reach out to Sharon, because that's kind of the start of this whole cascade of miracles that you're going to see. But then he goes ahead and forgets again, like, okay, Sharon's kind of taking care of it, but I'm going to try and get to the airport myself, and it's not going to work out so well. But behind the scenes, while all of this kind of like strain and stress is going on, there's hundreds and hundreds of angels working behind the scenes, which, it may not always be that way for us on a form level, like having hundreds of people work behind the scenes, but I can guarantee it is that way. If we look at, how much the Holy Spirit and how much God is doing for us behind the scenes, where we may not, through our limited perspective, through what we're able to see, might not be so apparent. But it is like, that's kind of the feeling that I think is really valuable to keep in mind. Like, angels are waiting in the wings, just ready for our willingness, and you can really see that through this scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I want to bring in one more section of the course that we've got set aside, and it, like, this is the coming together of a whole lot of different things. This is where you're also going to see Sharon and her son come together again, but in a very new way, because they're both pointed in the same direction. And right kind of alongside this, there's another section from the body as a means of communication, paragraph 10, which says, healing is the result of using the body solely for communication. So this is just what Sharon's been in the entire movie, and actually everyone else alongside her as well. But I feel like she's just been this really profound demonstration of it. So Jesus goes on to say, healing is the result of using the body solely for communication. Since this is natural, it heals by making whole, which is also natural. All mind is whole, and the belief that part of it is physical or not mind is a fragmented or sick interpretation. Mind cannot be made physical, but it can be made manifest through the physical if it uses the body to go beyond itself. By reaching out, the mind extends itself. It does not stop at the body, for if it does, it is blocked in its purpose. A mind that has been blocked has allowed itself to be vulnerable to attack because it has turned against itself. The removal of blocks, then, is the only way to guarantee help and healing. Help and healing are the normal expressions of a mind that is working through the body but not in it. So this is just kind of wrapping it all up in a nice bow, because it seems to be about this little girl getting the healing that she needs for her body, but what you're going to see is this massive orchestration beyond any one body. And there's just this integration and definite feeling of wholeness at the end that speaks really far more clearly to the level of mind.
So, with that in mind, I think we can just kind of let it play through and appreciate the miracle together. Well, yeah, how beautiful. It was quite a swirl at the end, all just kind of fueled by Sharon and Ed's joint prayer to expand in mind and see the world a different way. So, yeah, thank you everyone for being with us on this journey. It was a lot of fun to share this all with you. I hope it was as impactful for you as it was for me, for us. Yeah. I think, yeah, that's about it for this movie workshop. But